I used to sort of live on the edge. You're experimenting with what hasn't been done before, or what you haven't done before, and either succeeding or failing. Now you don't fail, you just take chances. If you play it safe, you'll develop much slower. It doesn't mean that you'll develop, not develop, but you'll develop much slower.
Yeah.
And I developed very rapidly because I wanted to be in the position of the director of photography, to help the director tell the story. I feel particularly involved in helping make mistakes acceptable to studio heads and other people and the audience even, by using them, by blatantly, not by mistakes or anything, but by endeavor. If the light shone in the lens and flared the lens, that was considered a mistake. Somebody would report that, the operator would report, the sun hit the lens, it flared the lens, it cut.
There was never a fear. I mean, I've shot with Conrad where Conrad would use so little light that you'd barely see anything in a room, but you'd see it. You know, where there was nothing safe. Safe was never the word with him.
Getting things too dark or not seeing eyes and things like that. Background too hot, windows blown, things like that nobody would dare do without getting fired in the slick old days. I should be an artist. Now that doesn't mean that like what people call you or anything else like that, but it's the way you look at things, huh? It's the way you appreciate life. It's the way you attack telling the story, and that you should, and that it should come from the depths of your soul and heart and mind, in a kind of organic way somehow or other, you know, that it should, that doesn't mean you don't have intellect working up here, feeding down into this system too, but like, but you shouldn't let this win over this. You're liable to get kind of, what's the word, stuck. No, that's not the right word. I can't think of the right word right now. But he taught me to be open, to be frightened, to be searching, not to be certain about anything really. To evolve into what the best thing is. It was an attitude he taught me. He looked at everything totally different every time. Each picture was different. He looked at everything differently, and each shot was looked at differently. There was no sort of like, he wasn't like bringing something to bear on something. Something was like bringing out of the story and everything, and the actors and all of that, came a way he could bring it to bear to tell it exactly, see, or well, rather than knowing it all beforehand and imposing it upon the actors, everybody, sort of like, you see. So that kind of sensibility is what he imbued in me. I call it, it's the artistic sensibility, you know, and whether I am or am not an artist is immaterial, but I approach my work as an artist. And that doesn't mean I am one, but that's how I approach it. Complex is writing music or writing stories, you know, that kind of thing. And it's a language that that's hard to get to know. It's as complex a language as music, you know. It's got 88 keys, and you can use them in any complex way you want to. But we got the sun and the light. Jesus, is there anything more complex than light? I'm one of those guys who doesn't do a lot of augmenting, but like who knows how to take the accident and turn it into something wonderful, magical. I look for that. I thrive on it. I feed on it. I don't invent stuff. It invents itself, and then I notice it and use it dramatically.
Boys, where you going? Come on, get in.
And we felt that it might be a really wonderful proscenium to present this material in.
He was in a fever.
The scene where Robert Blake is about to be hanged, and he's talking to the chaplain.
It was going to make us a
It was shot on the stage. We had a rain gutter over the top, and it was like coming down. And I had a fan off to the side, which wasn't blowing the rain against the window, but was blowing the spray from the rain against the window. The light hitting his face with this phenomenon happening on the windows happened to hit his face one time when I was looking. So I went to Richard and I said, Richard, watch this on his face now, you know what I mean? And we did another rehearsal, and you can see the water running down and it drips around. And he's talking about his father, and it's very sad he's going to be hanged, but he's played it very straight. Unemotional.
But I do.
And the visuals were crying for him.
I hate him. And I love him.
I've had so many cinematographers call me and ask me how I did that shot. Huh? Well, I didn't conceive it at all. Richard didn't conceive it. Nobody conceived it. It was purely a visual accident. Is to create a source light of some kind, no matter whether it's from on top, a la Godfather, or through windows, or from practicals, that kind of thing. You need to put light on what you want to see and create a mood for that thing. So there's all points, every place in the room is a place to put light. On the floor, I love bouncing light off of the floor. I love bouncing light off the ceiling. And using soft light and hard light and shafts and all of that kind of thing. Consider light like strokes of a drawing or a painting, and you splash a little here and you splash a little there, and you create the painting that you want to see, and where you don't want to see, you paint it black. When I use a light normally, I focus the light completely. A light has a wide beam and a narrow beam when you focus it. And I like to focus the light so that the beam is quite narrow. That way I can use it to illuminate. I can use the edge of it for illumination, or I could use the center of it for illumination. People can pass through and get hotter and then cooler. And I use large lights outside to create the sources that come through windows in daylight and from the sky, big stuff outside. I often use mirrors because mirrors are so easy to control. Bouncing a light into a mirror, you can take the mirror and you can use it without setting gobos and things to cut the light. You can twist it around. I'm not a movie star lighter. I light for the story, the appropriate kind of light that the story requires. And Paul Newman has those beautiful baby blues to like constantly throw a light on them to make him, to give him this star quality is not really effective in portraying a character. In this last film that I did with Paul, I've done 4 with him now, by the way, and they've all been remarkable films. He's such a remarkable talent. actor, director, human being. He plays a bad guy. And now, that doesn't necessarily call for ugly lighting or anything like that. The attempt is not to make him look beautiful and to make him look like Paul Newman. The attempt is to find the kind of light that helps characterize his performance, to help him with his performance. If that light is coming from below and everything else like that, there's a reason why that. It's not just to make it come from below in an ugly fashion, but maybe there's something going on down there that and it needs to like, a movie star looks good no matter what happens to him, no matter what kind of light you put on it. And it's defeating to a film to light him movie star style. I take my inspiration from, not from museums and painters and things like that, but from life itself, from the light on the street, the light in a room, the way it's hitting your hair from this top backlight here, things like that. I make these mental notes about light that I bring forth when I've got a story to tell. I have 2 meters and a spot meter. I have 2 spectras and a spot meter, which are tools for measuring light. And the spot meter, I see a lot of cinematographers using spot meters, but I have one, but I don't know how to use it. Actually, I really don't. I don't know. It's sort of digital, and I'm not a digital person. When radios became, to get more volume, you had to do this, less volume, that. I like doing that. It's a collaborative art, huh? And one of my favorite directors that I worked with was Richard Brooks, who was an auteur type, who insists upon this and that, and no, I want this composition, Conrad, not that composition, and this kind of thing. But like, he was very knowledgeable. He was not as open as most people who are control freaks, let's say, which is, I mean that in the best term. Every director should be about his or her vision, not the cinematographer's vision. And as Richard Brooks put it to me, if you want to direct your own film, don't direct mine. But it doesn't have the same emotional impact as a 30-foot screen 15 feet high has 45 feet away from you. It's an entirely different emotional experience. The 5 factor, it's called, being your distance away from the screen and the emotional reaction that movement and image size and things have to do. My God, a face that's 20 feet high, 30 feet from you. What an unreality that is. And that's what movies are about. It's creating it's creating the emotional aspects of that unreality that we call technique, artistry, or craftsmanship, and using it to move the audience's emotions around. It's a great art form. I tortured the film to its maximum. 96.
Yeah?
Took it right to the edge.
How'd you do that?
That I had to an edge even more dangerous than Fat City, which I had already, but that wasn't 96, that was something else, you see. I'd started experimenting with torturing film on Fat City, rather than making it beautiful, like Lee Garms and Ted McCord and all those cats used to do. I tried to find beauty through torture, torturing the film through extravagant opposites and things like that, you see.
Pushing the contrast ratio?
All that kind of stuff, yeah.
Overexposing, underexposing?
All that kind of stuff. I wasn't so much into underexposing because you don't really see much, you know what I mean? I was into overexposing and printing down.
Uh-huh.
Because then you don't get the grain and all that kind of thing. But on this last picture, well, you see it when it comes out. It's not spectacular, really. It just, I call it magic naturalism.
Ah.
And I used a lot of mirrors, and I used a lot of lights, and my gaffers get used to the idea that I don't just turn on a light and leave it like that. I turn on a light and focus it.
Yeah?
And I never use a light wide, flood.
Uh-huh.
I never use a floodlight. I always focus the light. So it like becomes a smaller area that it covers. And the way it drops off is very natural and smooth and soft kind of light, you see. And then, work on whether you go and use from 0 foot candles to 5,000 foot candles and expose it wide open.
Oh.
Kind of like, and let the laboratory and the chemicals do the rest. But it's like painting, I guess, huh? Splashing this and that and doing what you feel like doing. You just sit there looking through the lens and make this too hot or too cool or just right or too dark. Well, I started with the overexposure kind of deal on that one and printing down.
All right.
Torturing the film and
torturing
things
the film.
like that.
This has become kind of a standard technique for you.
Well, it's toying with the film. It's toying with the standards of the film to find the artistic possibilities in it. You see?
Okay. Allow me to ask you a couple following questions.
Yeah.
Overexposed. 1 stop, 2 stops, 6 stops. Where do you go with it?
Well, you find out where the edge is.
The edges, yeah.
You shoot a test, and you print at a kind of normal stop. I mean, at a normal printing light, and then you overexpose, and then you start taking the various 1 stop, 2 stop, 3 stop, 4 stop, and trying to bring it back to the look you want. To a normal look if you want a normal look, or to a hot look if you want a hot look, or to a dark look if you want a dark look. And you find out where the edge is when you can't do that anymore, you see? And then knowing where that edge is, it's usually around 4 stops, I feel.
Really? That far? That far?
Right. 3 you could say, but 4 because the labs don't tell you, even though everybody knows it, that you can shift the scale and get another stop out of it when you make your IP or your answer print. You know what I mean?
Well, it's the marvels of printing, shooting on negative and printing up and down from
exactly
onto your inner positive and into your inner negative.
Right. But underexposing is wonderful too because you can pick up grain.
Yeah.
Grain is a valuable storytelling tool.
Yes.
I mean, sometimes you want the grain. I mean, think of how wonderful Day of the Locust would have been, all grainy and like gritty and dark and dismal and all of that kind of thing, the way their real lives were, you know what I'm saying? Not how they would like to have had their lives. Would have been wonderful, you see? So it's all good, and we're just talking about craft here. We're just talking about learning about craft, learning what underexposure does, learning about what overexposure does, rather than just doing the normal thing, you see? Or like making it too contrasty or not making it too contrasty, all that kind of stuff. You gotta know all that stuff because each story is a different kind of, this sounds like a lesson. Okay, well now a lot of people can think in their brain. They can see in their brain. They can visualize here. I can't. I can't read a story and know what the actors do and everything and think of what to do. I could. I mean, it's not that I can't do it. It's that that's not how I become good at what I do. I become good at what I do after I appreciate how the scene unfolds when actors begin to like move and go here or go there, and develop a kind of naturalness about unfolding the scene. Then my mind begins to see that it's better to sort of follow one person or another person, or like not see them at all, but hear them off stage, and all of the myriad possibilities to tell that story, you see? I see it immediately.
So at the rehearsal then, at the
At the time of rehearsal is when I see it, and I see it immediately and very quickly and very precisely. That doesn't mean that if the director sees it differently and like has an entirely different thing, that I can't like say, see it that way too. I can and do. And like if he doesn't like what I have like suggested, if he's asked me to suggest it first, and has a way of doing it, then like I appreciate that way, because there's not one way to tell a story.
Of course.
There's a million different ways. But it's a nefarious thing to be able to describe what it is that allows you to think that you have a good way or the best way. I guess you would have to call that craft, and your craft expressed through your talent, which is like, you know, I don't know what talent is, but like craft is like getting pretty precise about a good way of telling a story, you see? And that's too complex for us to get into. That's a course, all year long course of like looking at films and discussing films and how people did this, and but all the time you're making these quick decisions when you see the rehearsal, and you suggest to the director, if he asks you to, how you would go about covering this scene, and you say, we start here, then we do that, we'd cut, we do this, we do that, and you decide how to do it. Then it goes to the editor, and he does it however he wants to do it later on with the director, and that's fine. But you have to decide a way to begin with, and it's hard to say. It's collaborative always, for sure. You always do what the director wants, but sometimes he gives you more authority to do that, and sometimes less authority to do that. So I work anyway. I do what the director wants to do, and if he wants me to show him how to do it, I'll do that. If he wants me to help him to see it, I'll help him to see it. If he wants me to do it entirely differently, I'll do it entirely differently, and I'll make it work really good. I had a chance to do an anamorphic film, and to kind of introduce some interesting things. There, the idea of the film, there, what springs to your mind when you're trying to decide how to shoot a film is, again, looking for the theme of the thing. Butch Cassidy is about people who are bank robbers. That's what they do. That's their line of work. That's their craft. And suddenly, posses are becoming invincible. Banks are becoming invincible. All this stuff is technological advancement is putting them out of business. And they don't want to look for a new line of work. And the tragedy of like dying with something that has passed you over technologically, like it's happening in with lumber people, with, you know, with all kinds of industries and crafts in modern day. It will go on forever. Gives you an idea. The idea was to like use that technological advancement as a thematic thing. How to show it visually? Well, it's to see it at a distance, but up close. In other words, it's here, but so you shoot everything. Not everything, but like you shoot the posse, the thing that's putting them out of business, with long telephoto lenses. But you put them at such a great distance that it's a long shot. And so you have this kind of scoped focus on the theme of the picture.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that's putting them out of business, kind of like. And, you know, and so you use the long lenses and, you know, all that kind of stuff that you saw the picture. It was a great, it was a wonderful opportunity. And so you try to find the theme of the story, and then that kind of brings up a way to approach it.
Mm-hmm.
And you decide if you want to romanticize it, if you want to make it naturalistic, if you want to make it realistic, if you want to make it abstract. This gives, so there are these stylistic choices that govern your thinking, and then that expresses itself in the lighting,
mm-hmm.
in how you use the camera, whether you shake it or hand hold it or like tie it off,
mm-hmm.
whether you move it a lot, whether you don't move it a lot, whether you play the picture mostly here,
mm-hmm.
or whether you play it long shot, you know, wider kind of sensibility in the picture. All these things are flowing through your mind and are coming to bear on how you're going to do that film. And I don't make hard and fast decisions beforehand. I just get all of that in there. And then I come up with magic realism, magic naturalism.
Magic naturalism.
You know, that kind of thing. And what is magic naturalism? Well, I'd be damned, I don't know myself, huh? But I do know. In a way, I'll know it when I'm sitting there behind the camera and like looking through the lens and trying to figure out what I mean. And suddenly it comes to me that the sunlight coming through the window shouldn't be balanced at all, but should be so bright that like it startles you. Maybe there's nothing on the film at that point, mm-hmm. or something like that, because that's not realistic, you see. And then kind of turn it into a magical sense.
The best cameramen always talk emotionally about their pictures and how the feel of it, and not so much, oh, I had the key at 100-foot candles and the fillet to 120, right. or 20-foot candles and 10 backlit or that kind of. They always talk about the emotion and the feel that you get off it in the final return product.
Right. Well, there's magic realism we know in literature that Gabriel Marquez did in 100 Years of Solitude, right? They call that literature magic realism. Why? The day I stood facing the firing squad, I thought about the time my father took me to and introduced me to ice. That's magic realism. That's those thoughts, the way that they come out and evolve. That's what magic realism is. You see, it's how it's put together somehow or other. And magic naturalism for me meant the way it is, naturally, but evolved more specifically in contrasts that produce the kind of feeling you get when you pull a rabbit out of a hat, or like do something wonderful like magic, that kind of feeling. Huh? So that I tried to like pull a rabbit out of a hat, or change it into a dove, or make it make the appreciation of the way the story was being told happen with those little gasps in there. And that's what I tried to do on the last picture. And I used a lot of mirrors. I used a lot of hot light, and I used a lot of no light. And I didn't change the stop ever. I shot the film wide open. And I shot the lens wide open so that it's not at its best value. So then I didn't have to use much filtration, because already it's so soft because there's so little in focus. But I tortured the poor assistant cinematographer. Day of the Locust, which is a story about, basically about the kind of thing that's happening in Los Angeles today. The riots from down there because cops beat up, tortured this man, and everybody, and then the law let them off the hook rather, and everybody couldn't stand it any longer, and went crazy and started to burn Los Angeles down. That's Day of the Locust.
Well, also a period piece. A piece.
But it was a period piece.
Period piece,
right?
Exactly.
Right.
So you're able to make a stylistic choices of filtrations.
And we went through all of this with John Schlesinger about how should we do this? How should we see the failure in these people who were extras who became so frustrated that eventually at a premiere, when they couldn't get near enough to their stars to see them even, the frustration got so deep that they rioted.
They rioted, yeah.
Which is what that story is about. And two ways you could do it. I had just not that long ago made a film that was a terrible failure, Fat City,
yeah.
and chose to not romanticize it in any way, to do it in a very naturalistic sense. So there was this choice to be made. Should we do that? Should we make this naturalistic? A lot of handheld stuff, and drain the color, and do the things that would make it perhaps less romantic and everything else like that? Or should we romanticize it and make it the way the frustrated people wished their lives were? You see? To romanticize how they felt they wanted to be, what they couldn't touch, but the flame, the beautiful flame that the moth throws itself and burns itself against, and all of that kind of thing. So there were these two ways to go. They both sound like good ways. We picked the romantic way, and we did it, I think, pretty darn good.
Yeah.
But in retrospect, I think, what if we'd done it the other way? What if we'd made it naturalistic? What if we'd done it like Fat City or Black and White, and made it grim rather than romantic? All this crud going down and all this beauty on the screen, you see? I don't know whether we made the right choice. The lighting isn't enough for me. I'm not a lighting cameraman like English cameramen, and some American cameramen are lighting cameramen too. I operate the camera. I do everything. You know what I mean? I like to be involved with the whole process of choosing the size of the image, how it should move or not move, or helping to tell the story visually, which a lot of people consider the director's prerogative. Well, and it is. It can be, But I work with first-time directors who don't know what they do when they get on a set. They're writers, they're poor babies. I feel sorry for them, because they get there and suddenly here are these actors, and here's all these people standing there looking, and
what do we do next?
What do we do next? Yeah. And it's scary
Yes.
for them. So they're usually they take you in and make you part of their collaborative process, which is nice. And you can help them a lot because you're very familiar about how it should go and all of that kind of thing. And you can suggest it and they listen, and sometimes they think, well, yeah, but not, what if we did it this way, you know? And you can say, yeah. And so there's a good collaboration with new people. I like working with new people.
Train them right. To train them right.
Well, no, I don't mean training them at all. No, I learn a lot from new people. They ask for things sometimes that I might consider ridiculous. And then when I start to think about it, why should I consider it ridiculous? And I do it, and I find out it's perfectly wonderful, you see. So they lead you into a new, inventive world that your past experience has precluded from knowing, you see. So you learn from everybody. Somebody who knows nothing about it and somebody who knows everything about it. You learn all the time. For me, no matter whether you're a director or a cinematographer or art director or an editor, you should know everything about film. And you should be crafted in all of it as much as you can. You don't have to be an expert in it or anything else like that, but the more you know, the more you can contribute to the craft that you are specializing in, sort of like, because you understand everybody else's job, you see. I consider myself a filmmaker, even though I'm a cinematographer. I'm a filmmaker. I can do production design, I can do editing, I can do all kinds of things, you know. Probably not very well, but I know and understand them and I can do them. And like, I'm appreciative of their contribution and everything, and so that enriches my craft.
I'm tired.